Before we get into your STAR data, just a few quick words on what the STAR test is and how we use it here at Vernon Hills High School. So the STAR Reading Assessment is a short test that provides teachers with data. STAR tests are computer adaptive, which means they adjust to each answer a student provides. We're using the STAR test here at Vernon Hills High School by asking all freshmen through junior students to take the STAR test 3 times a year in their English class as a progress monitoring tool. Should you be talking to your students about their STAR scores? Non-English teachers are not asked to discuss STAR scores with their students. Non-English teachers can simply use those scores to inform their practice. So with that in mind, let's get into looking at some of those scores. You'll notice 2 major areas on your report. The first is grade equivalency. A grade equivalency tells you how a student's test performance compares with other students nationally. So for example, a 5th grade student with a grade equivalency score of 7.6 performed as well as a typical 7th grader after 6 months of the school year. So you'll notice a range with your students, some perhaps reading below and some reading above grade level. The other piece of data that you'll get is a percentile ranking. Since this is a nationally normed test, we can see where our students performed in comparison to other students across the nation who took the test. As all percentile ranked scores do, they range from 1 to 99%. And it simply tells you where your student is compared to other students nationally. Just to give you kind of a frame of reference, this varies from school to school depending on the standard for performance. But here at Vernon Hills High School, we've decided that the 40th percentile is kind of a good marker for whether or not a student can function independently in their classes. In other words, is their reading level a concern or not? So students who are above 40th percentile, you'll notice, are kind of considered capable readers in their classes, whereas students below 40th percentile to various degrees might need some extra intervention in their classes. Okay, so with those 2 scores in mind, grade equivalent and percentile rank, let's take a look at your data. Oops. So you'll need to use this shortened URL here if you don't have access to the document otherwise. So feel free to type that in, and then you can join us in this document, which is beautifully organized by Andy Young. So this is the landing page. It houses data for each department and kind of a miscellaneous department file for anyone who doesn't have a traditional classroom roster. So go ahead and locate where your score might be depending on where you fall. We'll kind of take a look at a sample English classroom report. So if you click on your respective area, you'll notice the first page of the Google spreadsheet is a landing page which has some summary information telling you by each course how many students are at each level of benchmark and kind of giving you an average reading level per course. This is nice information. Perhaps you could discuss it in your PLT or just kind of consider it at large. But we want to encourage you not to make any decisions based on this summary or this kind of average reading level, because we really want to be working toward meeting students' individual needs. So with that, take a look at your particular page. We'll just take a look here at Alicia Booth's. You'll notice that depending on what classes you teach, you might have some holes. Any senior is not asked to take the STAR test. So if you teach seniors, that class will have some holes. Last year, the honors and AP classes did not take the assessment, so you might notice some holes there for the spring score. And the AP and Lang students this year were kind of delayed in getting access to the test, so there may not be information for all of your juniors if they're taking AP Lang. So that being said, you should have pretty thorough information for all of your freshman through sophomore students. So let's kind of walk through some of the main rows of this Google sheet here. So obviously some of these columns are pretty self-explanatory, such as grade level and counselor. A few other pieces of information. We thought it might be helpful to have the special service information here, just so you can kind of have all in one place what additional services that student is receiving. You'll notice GE, again, that stood for grade equivalency for the fall of 18. So that is your student's most recent score. And again, the PR stands for percentile rank for the fall of 18 is your student's most recent percentile ranking. So per student, you can see exactly where they fall, both in terms of their grade equivalency and percentile ranking for this most recent test. The next column is called the benchmark column. So based on our school's kind of established areas, we have decided on sort of these benchmark categories. As the colors indicate, anything green indicates a 40th percentile or above. That generally means your student is reading about at or above grade level. Obviously, there's a huge range there from 40th to 100th percentile, so you can kind of see more individualized information. But if you see a student in the green area, that generally means that they're able to read pretty independently at grade level. So they're probably going to be able to function okay in terms of the complex reading that you give them in your class. Students below the 40th percentile have varying degrees of need. The next category is the blue on watch category. That ranges from about 25th to 40th percentile or 39th percentile. Those are students who are reading perhaps slightly below grade level. They're maybe not someone who needs immediate outside intervention, but they're someone to sort of keep on your radar as perhaps needing some extra support. The yellow category stands for intervention. That's about, I believe, 10th to 25th percentile. That implies that a student needs some kind of intervention. That intervention may happen outside of class, but you very well might be the intervention needing to offer some services within your class to help support the student as they read the text in your class. The red category, urgent intervention, is 10th percentile or below. So that category indicates a student who likely needs some kind of outside of class intervention. And you'll notice here in the next category, current literacy intervention, that most of the urgent intervention students should be getting some sort of outside of class intervention. So for example, Macias Academic Literacy 2 means that this student has a literacy class built into their day as an additional intervention to help them with their reading needs. Other kinds of interventions might be pull-out and within the special ed department where students are getting one-on-one or two-on-one support from a literacy specialist. So that just kind of tells you whether your student's getting additional services outside of your class. But any student who is below the 40th percentile is someone who may need additional support from you within the class to help them read the text that you're asking them to read. The last two columns are the spring 2018 scores. Again, you see the grade equivalency and percentile ranking for both for that test. So just as a means of comparison, you might see, be able to see some trends or even outliers depending on a student's performance. But sometimes it's helpful to have more than one data point, especially for those teaching seniors, because perhaps you'd get a data point from their spring test, whereas they may not have one for their fall. So that's basically how to read this sheet, kind of using the data to get an individual snapshot of your student. Just a quick word of caution that this is one data point. It's really not meant to, give you the whole picture of your student. But as we're coming to know our students and thinking about ways that we can support their individualized needs, it's always helpful to have another piece of data to help inform that. So hopefully that helps you walk through your student STAR data, and you can now go about using that to inform your practice to support your students' needs.